Guys, I'm doing a surprise live this morning. I usually just record my podcast and go live on Fridays, but I just want to do a little surprise live for you guys. Today, I want to talk to you guys about security. Is it in my relationships or things? We're going to get into that, but before we do, I'm going to jump on the podcast platform really quick, you guys. I'm going live on my page and my personal profile, Daily Encouragement with Ashley Campbell, the Facebook page, as well as my YouTube channel that I really don't give a crap about because YouTube really screwed me a couple years ago and canceled my other account, took down over 400 videos because I'm talking about things that they don't want us to talk about. Anyway, I digress. So I'm going to go ahead and hit record on here, you guys, and we're going to talk about security. Is it in my relationship or things? I'm going to hit record on here. And let's go ahead and get this thing started. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's a countdown on this one. What is up, you wonderful, beautiful, fantastic people of the world? This is Ashley Campbell with Daily Encouragement. By the time you guys hear this episode, it will be March 20th, 2024. Time is flying. Spring is here, which I really believe it's already out here in Tennessee already, you guys. And it's February 14th as of today. I was literally outside yesterday pulling weeds. But anyway, I want to talk to you guys about a revelation I had back in January of 2023. Right now, I'm doing a segment on my podcast called Revamp, where I share with you guys the biggest revelations that I've had, the years prior. And so I was reading through January of 2023 this week and last week, and I'm just going to share some things with you guys that stuck out to me in the notes. So this is going to be super loaded. I hope you guys get some value out of it as we're going to be talking about this. So one thing I realized, one of the themes that I kept seeing when I was reading through my notes was I was seeking to be more secure in my relationship with the Lord and not the things that brought me a feeling of security. Okay. I'm going to share with you guys really quick something that the Lord revealed to me years ago. So probably 2 or 3 years ago, I was feeling super anxious about money. Can anybody relate? Like, I grew up in poverty. Okay. And so if my bank account or my savings account gets to a certain amount, right, I start feeling anxious. If I don't have an extra, if I have everything I need, but let's just say, okay, all my money's gone, went to the grocery store, stocked up for 2 weeks, right? And if I don't even have like $20 just in case I need something, I get stressed out. And so anyway, this question hit me a couple years ago. And it was something like, let me see if I can remember what it was. But in a nutshell, it was, Ashley, why do you trust in money more than me? And I knew the Lord was trying to get at something because have you guys ever get sick of worrying about something that you've been worrying about like your whole life? And so I knew this question was important. And I was like, yeah, Lord, that's a really great question. Why do I find more security in money than I do in my relationship with you? And one thing I've learned, you guys, in the process of healing in my life and unlearning things I learned growing up and just sort of confronting my own barriers, my own struggles, is God has used my memories in my life to help me see basically the root of a certain mindset, of a belief, a way of behaving, and helping me understand how that has played a part in who I am today. And so he brought my mind, a memory back to growing up as a kid and reminding me that my biological father, he wasn't literally in my life, like physically, but he sent child support to my mom every single month until I was 18. So my stepdad raised me and my mom, my biological mom. And, that was not a very stable home. Okay. Both my parents were alcoholics. My stepdad used to literally beat my mom physically for a season. Okay. And so that caused a lot of stress. And then they would break up. And then when they would break up, life was really crappy. Okay. And so I was homeless a lot when my stepdad wasn't around. Me and my mom lived in a van, literally down by the river, okay, in Eastern Washington. Me and my mom and my sister for a season. And, you guys, we lived off of powdered milk, food banks. My mom had TANF food stamps, like the coupons back in the day. You guys remember those? I'll tell you a really quick story. So my mom was a super bad manager with the money. Like when my stepdad and my mom were together, they were together for a total of 13 years, but they were on and off like a light switch. Okay. And so my mom would blow the money. And of course, my dad's wanting to have his smokes and his beer or whatever. So he would take me and my sister and my younger brother down to this brand new gas station that just opened up. And they were still had the food coupons back in the day. You guys remember those? And those were the food stamps. And then they came out with the cards or whatever. But anyway, because of this, I know this was part of it. I know my dad had something to do with this. He wasn't the only one. But anyway, you had the coupons. And if you didn't spend the full amount, they would give you cash back. So my dad would be like, okay, y'all get 25 cents. And that's back when they literally still had a little bit of penny candy left. Okay. So you had like 5 cents here, 10 cents here. And so we would get candy. We'd go cash it in. I think he would give us like $3. Basically, so we'd get a total of 75 cents, right? And so we would cash them all in, and then we'd give him the change. And that's how he got his beer money. So anyway, the point is I grew up. I remember standing in line at the grocery store when I was probably like 5, 6 years old, maybe 7. And this guy in front of me pulled out this fat wad of cash to pay for his groceries. And I thought to myself, oh my God, like, how do people even do that? I had no concept of people using cash to buy their groceries because the only thing I ever heard growing up was, oh crap, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to get money for that? We survived off of food stamps. Okay. Like that's when we ate good. Right. And then towards the end of the month, we'd be going to the food bank. And so it was a pattern I was in. But anyway, the point is growing up in that environment really put me in a certain mindset. Okay. Basically a scarcity mindset. There wasn't going to be enough, life was always going to be a struggle or whatever. And so anyway, as a grown woman, right, just a few years ago, still worrying about money, worrying about, worrying about those kind of things, God showed me that I learned to put my security in things. In this case was my dad's child support, right? And it wasn't even a lot of money. My dad sent my mom $366 a month. But because he sent it consistently, it brought a sense of security and peace to me because that's what was helping my parents out, even though they didn't necessarily do right with it. Okay. Right. Especially my mom. But the point is I knew that money was going to come. And so it helped me out. My mom used to take my birthday money from me. Like my grandma would send me a card in the mail. She would take the cash. All right. Anytime any extra money from any other person came into the house, it always went to her. And she wasn't nice about it either. Like she would call me names, she would scream, she would yell. And I'm like a 7, 8-year-old kid. My stepdad, he was a little bit more on the, I guess you could say, relational, nicer side. He'd be like, hey, Ashley, we really need this money. I'll take you down to the store. I'll buy you a candy bar. And we just need it to get, the things that we need. So I was like, all right, Dad, sure. And I would give him my money and go down to the store with him. But the point is I learned to put my security in things and money over relationships. I did not have stable people in my life that made me feel safe and secure. I didn't know what it meant to have a relationship that brought security and safety into my life. Okay. And the relationships that were supposed to provide that did not do that for me. And here's the thing you guys got to remember. When we get older, we look back on our parents' life and we understand where they came from. But sometimes we can understand to the point of not validating the things that have caused us pain. Okay. It's not going to hurt them or you for being honest about how their behavior shaped who you are. Okay. We can understand, but we have to acknowledge ourselves as people, and that's why a lot of people don't, because we compare. We're like, oh, they suffered more than I did. And so therefore you sort of belittle your own experience, your own story, and you don't get healed from it because you don't acknowledge it. So it's really important to acknowledge everything in your life, no matter what it is, no matter how big or small, whoever you're comparing yourself to, and start appreciating your own life, your own soil, your own experiences, and how they have shaped your life. And so anyway, I had to just start acknowledging how my parents and their behaviors, their lack of being a secure and safe place for me, right, impacted me. When I was growing up, when my mom used to, like I told you guys, she physically got abused by my stepdad, screaming, yelling all the time, fighting, alcohol. I mean, just constant chaos. And we're talking like 100, 100 out of 10. Like it was just constantly just volatile, stressful growing up. And I finally I got sick of it. I was like 6 or 7 years old. And I started talking to my first grade teacher at school. And I was like, hey, my dad, he gets mad at my mom and he like beats her up and stuff. And it's really stressing me out. And I didn't want to get nobody in trouble. I was just had my own struggles and burdens I was dealing with. Parents, like your kids have their own burdens that they carry in their hearts. Seriously. All right. My mom, though, she wasn't mature enough to actually address what I needed. And I remember I came home from school one day and she goes, Ashley, If you keep talking about what's going on here in this house, they're going to take you away. You're going to go to foster care. You're going to get molested by some stranger, and you're never going to see me again. That did not bring more security and safety into my life. If anything, it brought more fear and, oh, crap. Okay. So in order for me to feel safe, the best thing I could come up with as a kid, and this is all the stuff the Lord's revealed to me in my own healing journey. Let God use your memories to help you understand your current struggles of today. Okay. It's key. It's so key. So anyway, come home from school. My mom tells me that. I'm freaking out. I don't want that to happen. I want to feel safe. I want to feel secure. So you know what I learned to do? Shut my mouth, not address what I needed, and make sure that I was doing exactly what my mom wanted me to do so I would not be harmed. Okay. Did you guys know that's the soil of codependency? Did you know codependency is when your well-being is dependent on somebody else? I felt better, or I told myself that I would be safer if I just did it the way my mom wanted me to, because I didn't want to be away from my mom. I didn't want to be stripped from her. That wasn't the goal. I didn't want to go get molested by some weirdo in the freaking foster care system. So you guys understand the soil of that? And so because I didn't have secure and stable relationships with my primary caregivers, my mother and my stepdad, I didn't feel safe with them. I learned to do other things to feel safe. Okay. And that was relying on the $366 a month child support that I got from my biological father. And with him, I was his secret life. Okay. My biological father, you know what he told me? Well, he said I was a secret life. He had a vasectomy. Okay. So he had been previously married. He only had one daughter. All right. And so he had, after, you know, I don't know how long they were together, maybe 25 years or something. I don't know the story. He's dead. I can't ask him. But he had gotten divorced. Okay. Had a vasectomy. He's thinking, I'm good in the hood, bro. I can go out. I can see any women I want, and I'm going to be mighty fine. Right. He's like, I raised my daughter. He raised his other daughter. Right. She got married. Like, I don't know if they were, she might've got married after they got divorced. Like I said, I'm not really sure, but I know she was a little bit older before they eventually got divorced. A lot of people do that. Right. They don't divorce till the kids grow up. What the hell? You guys get your crap together, man. Why don't you start dealing with your stuff now? Don't betray the trust and make it look like everything's great when it's not. Okay. You hurt people more doing that. Anyway, I digress. So anyway, I don't know how the heck he met my mom, but my mom was Miss Fertile Myrtle. Okay. Meets my mom. They come together. She gets pregnant. Well, my mom knows it's his kid, and he paid for 3 paternity tests before he actually accepted reality that I was his kid. And so then he took care of his responsibilities, though, right? He's a responsible dude. He paid his child support, but he did not have a relationship with me because nobody knew about me. Not his daughter, not his wife, his ex-wife at the time, right? So it's not like he was cheating on her. But they got divorced, and then he was out doing his thing, but he never told anybody about it. For whatever reason, I don't know. But he did take care of his financial obligation. And so that was a blessing for me, but it also taught me, it reinforced my belief that I didn't even know I had until I got older and reflected that, you know what? Relationships are not secure. There's like no safety in them, right? Not when you grow up with unpredictable, lack of consistency, lack of love, lack of support, lack of emotional support, right? There was no place for me to put my fears and the things I was worried about and my needs. I couldn't give that to my mom because she was more worried about the crap that was going on with her. She was preoccupied. And you guys, I can relate to that. Can you? I mean, seriously, I got 7 children. My oldest is going to be 22 this year. I was a very young mother when I had him. Okay. I was like 16 when I finally had him. I got pregnant when I was 16, and then I had him a few months before I turned 17. Okay. I was a young mom. And me and my husband, me and Scott, we're still together. Praise the Lord for that. But when we were young, we didn't have our crap together. Like, we were immature. And I would be stressed out about something he was doing or something was going on between us. And I was preoccupied with my own stress. So my kid was physically with me. Like, he had a roof over his head. I did all that. Check. Right. We're not living in a van down by the river. Check. Okay. I got a house. I got food. Me and my husband got our first place when I was 17 years old. Right. So we're like, wow, we got our crap together. Okay. Right before 1 month before I graduated high school, me and my husband already had our first apartment. So we were feeling pretty good as parents, like providing for what our kid needed and this or that. But anyway, because of my own internal stress, I was distracted. Like, he had food, he had water, he had a roof over his head, but I wasn't addressing what he needed. I wasn't emotionally involved with him. I wasn't connected to him that way. I didn't have the emotional capacity within myself because I was too stressed. Parents, deal with your stuff. Seriously, it's going to affect your kids. This is why healing is vital. We as parents want to give our kids the best life we absolutely can. But if we don't start working on ourselves in this way, you know how much work it's going to take for your kids to unlearn some of the crap that they learned being in your environment? Seriously, you guys, did you know that your children will become adults one day? This is sobering crap, but this is how it is. Like, that is the reality of being a parent, is we're creating environments for our children. They're products of it. And then they got to figure out, unlearn some things, from what they didn't get or whatever. And you guys, did you guys know that's where your values come from? Your motivations? They come from what you did not get when you were growing up. So if you can identify what's driving you right now, right? Like what you're trying to do, maybe if you didn't have security growing up, right? Like I didn't, you're going to be motivated to provide security. So for me, I did that. I got a job when I was young, and me and my husband worked together to have a house for our kid, right? So that lack of safety and security, as far as that went, played in. The other thing I didn't have growing up was connection, right? I didn't have anybody who cared about my needs. So I've made a priority to not only care about what I need, because I can't help my children if I can't even address myself, but to pay attention to them. What do they need? I deal with my own stress so I can be available for them, because when I was growing up, my parents did not deal with their own stress. They did not take any responsibility for their behaviors, their attitudes. They blamed everybody else, whatever. They were distracted. And my heart goes out to him. My stepdad, right before he died, I remember asking him, he was like, Ashley, I didn't just like wake up and become an alcoholic. I said, okay, what happened, Dad? Like, seriously. He goes, nobody never taught me how to deal with stress. Okay, what a practical thing to do, guys. Learn how to deal with stress. Address your needs. What do you want? Don't allow generational curses to continue for lack of knowledge. Like, ask questions, right? How do you deal with stress? Is that not something that we deal with all the time? Managing our stress. And what's the equation for stress? Let me see if I can remember it. I think it's time and space. So, how much time do you have? Time and pressure. It's like something to do with that. I can't remember the equation, but there's an equation for stress, like why you might feel it, because you're not giving yourself enough time and space to accomplish. You ever notice that as there's demands or expectations on you, it gets closer and closer, right? You get more and more stressed. So learning how to give yourself time and space for the things that you need to deal with, right? And so anyway, where was I? Relationships, right? More secure in my things, money, than I was in my relationships. And so, the Lord was working on me with that. Let me see if I can find some notes in here in my journal really quick, some stuff that I highlighted that kind of might add to this conversation. Let me see, because there was so much in it, you guys. This thing was like super loaded. And I encourage you guys to go back and, reflect on things, how you're growing. And if you're not doing this, you guys, start making it a priority. Start writing things down, working some things out. So let me see. Okay. So I had been reading a scripture last year. It was Jesus talking about us, being yoked with him. And so I was looking up some different words, and I'm not sure what this is exactly pertaining to, but I was just like, Lord, being together with him, right? We're supposed to be yoked with him, connected. So my question was, what is the hidden motive behind trying to get ahead of God? Have you guys ever tried to do that? Like, you're not secure enough in the connection with him, and you might not even realize this, but if you are feeling restless in your relationship with God and he's connected to you, excuse me, guys, then you got to ask yourself these types of questions. All right. So for me, I had to be real with myself. You guys, check this out. I was at the dentist the other day, and I was talking to the gal who cleaned my teeth, and she did such an amazing job. Anyway, I asked her, do you know what condemnation is? And she's a Christian. Her dad is a pastor. So obviously she grew up in the church. And I said, do you know what condemnation is? And she just looked at me and she was like, no. I love her honesty, right? Like, I love people who are real about where they're at, because I mean, same with me. That's how you're going to get the insight and the solutions you're looking for. Not being in denial of things that you don't know. That's like, embrace your ignorance, right? So you can't get manipulated by it anymore. So anyway, she was like, no. And we say it all the time. There's no condemnation in Christ, right? Like, we know these words, but do you really know what they mean? Well, I looked it up years ago, because I was like, Lord, I hear this all the time, but what does it actually mean? And it means to express an opinion against yourself. How many of you actually do that? Do you express an opinion against yourself as a Christian? You say you're a Christian. You say you love the Lord. There's no condemnation. But subconsciously, pay attention to how you talk to yourself. What's your mental dialogue within yourself? You have it, okay? Like, seriously, everybody does. What are you saying to yourself? Are you expressing an opinion against yourself or other people? That's condemnation. I was like, wow, holy crap, Lord. I like do that all the time. I didn't realize how much I did that. I didn't realize this until almost 10 years ago. Gosh, I think it'll be 10 years this November that we've been out of the actual like traditional church, doing home church for the last 10 years. That probably actually was my saving grace to a degree, but that's a whole nother story. I was in a church for 7 years. That's a long time. 8 years. I've been following the Lord for a while now. How could you be in a place for that long and not know what condemnation is? How could you have knowledge and it not do anything for you for so long? Like, seriously, these are questions we have to ask ourselves. So then once I got out of that environment and I started really just embracing like my own relationship, kind of growing up, like when it's time to, for kids to grow up and like think for themselves, I was reaching my spiritual sort of maturity, like as an adult, right? Time to take ownership for my spiritual life and start thinking and making my own decisions, right? Basically, leaving behind my spiritual parents and becoming an adult. That's the other side of it too. But anyway, where was I, you guys? There's so much I'm trying to share with you guys. My mind just went whoop and went right over. But just being there that long and not knowing what it meant, and then just asking questions, realizing that I'd been in an actual church for 8 years, heard these things, but I didn't know how much I was still expressing an opinion against myself, even after being in Christ for 8 years. And that was really part of the bondage I was in. And if you guys are serious about getting out from underneath bondage, get my book, Nuggets of Truth, Volume 1. I am so raw in that book about things I've been through, because I believe if I tell my story, you guys can connect with it. And there's questions at the end of each day. You guys are going to start getting your own insight. You're not going to get your own insight by parroting what someone else said. You know how you get insight? Someone asking you very powerful questions. Okay. That is how you get insight. Somebody has to ask you so you can use your own faculties of your minds. Isn't that important? Like, that's the whole thing with critical thinking. I don't know that that's even something that people actually do these days. Not to get on anybody's case, but the public school system is doing a crap job teaching people how to critically think. But that's another conversation. So anyway, what is the hidden motive behind trying to get ahead of God? You have a relationship with God. You know him. You know of him. You know some things about him. You've experienced some things, but you're still feeling restless. You're just like, oh man, Lord, like what the heck? Even though he's right there. He's right there with you, but you're just still restless and discontent. That was me. I still get that way a little bit. I still get a little like, and it all goes back to old programming. Like, you guys, this stuff that we go through doesn't just fall away overnight. It's a continual practice of awareness and compassion for yourself and understanding. Why do you think Jesus said that how important it is for you to love your neighbor as yourself? Understanding these dynamics, okay? And so realizing that I was still trying to get ahead of him. So here's some of my answers. I'm trying to feel secure. So I have a relationship with the Lord, and that's supposed to be the most secure relationship I have, because everybody says he's your father. But again, I want to ask you guys something. If somebody asks you a question, what do you refer back to? Like, seriously, like what memories do you go back to in your mind? Like, what information do you use to kind of build your point? My mind would always go back to my past, like being with my parents, my mom and my dad. Well, that's not very secure, right? Did you know that when God becomes your father, he's literally wanting to give you all the experiences that you can actually start referring back to your experience with him, okay? because that's what we do as humans. And that's what we're supposed to do, because that's how we grow in discernment. That's how we use our senses. That's a whole nother podcast I could do. Lord, help me remember that. We should talk about that. Hebrews 5. All right. Using your senses. But your experiences that you've had are to teach you, to give you awareness and wisdom. You guys remember what wisdom is? Wisdom is knowing the best means and the best ends for accomplishing a particular end. So your past life experiences are supposed to help give that to you. I read this really awesome book years ago. It's called Necessary Endings from Dr. Henry Cloud. And he talked about if something dies in your life, whether it's a relationship, a business, whatever it was, right? Anytime there's any kind of death in your life, do an autopsy and ask yourself, what was the cause of death? That takes vulnerability and courage, because there might be some things that you need to learn. What do I mean by that? If you have been a person that's been walked on by other people, like taken advantage of, what do you need to learn? You probably need to learn some boundaries, right? Sometimes if we've been hurt or a victim of something else, we hear, oh, well, you got to fix it. And you're frustrated because you're like, wait a second, like they did that crap to me. What's up with that? And there's like that justice, that accountability that needs to happen. And at the same time, we have to ask ourselves, what part did I play? Like, what did I not know? Right? Like, did I have boundaries with this person? Did I say what I wanted? Did I communicate? Right? And if we didn't do that, then obviously there's going to be certain results that happen as a result of our lack of not knowing certain things. So that's what I mean by that when I say, what do we need to learn or figure out? Sometimes, but all the time, it's our ignorance that gets us in trouble. Okay. And so like for me, I didn't even know what boundaries were. Like in relationships with people, what the heck is that? It was not encouraged in the church I was in. They were seen as walls. They were bad. Like there was this horrible mindset, and I don't want to get into it, but I never learned how to distinguish myself from another person. I shared with you guys the whole codependency thing growing up. I denied my needs and what I wanted. So then when you go into the church and they say, deny yourself, I'm pretty sure I wrote about this in my devotional. I was like, I got this down. I've been denying myself my whole life, thinking if that's the key, holy crap, my life should be freaking glorious right now, because I've been denying myself, denying my needs my whole freaking life. And you know what? I was still miserable. I used my interpretation of that, applied it to, how I have God's word, what he says, right? Deny yourself, but then you have your way of living it out. And if your way of living it out is still got you in bondage, you're not living it out rightly. And that's exactly why Jesus Christ came, because he had to redefine what the scriptures meant to everybody, because the Pharisees were doing a crap job, right? They were tying heavy loads upon people that they were not willing to actually carry. Okay. But that's another conversation as well. Back to the original conversation, which was relying on relationships, or relying on things instead of relationships. And so let me see if I got any other examples in here, you guys, from my notes. I know there was some more in here, and I'm struggling to find it because there's so much in here. Okay. No, that's not really pertaining to that. Okay. Maybe. Okay. This was breaking free from the habits of mind, anxious about money, which I kind of told you guys about that a little bit. Let me see if there's anything else in here. Okay. Well, maybe this might be helpful for you guys. I don't know how long this podcast thing records for. It's a new platform that Spotify's using. It's called Riverside. I've never used it until today. I had to set up an account with them and everything. So I don't know if they're going to let me go past 30 minutes. So I'm hoping they will. I'm just going to keep it rolling and see what happens. Okay. So for me, breaking free from me, putting my security in things instead of my relationships, here's kind of some steps. I'm going to try to apply these steps to that situation. This was, talking about the habits of mind, but I'm sure I can, mesh this all together for you guys in a way where you can actually use it. Okay. So number 1, establish your stronghold. What do you believe? What does God say? So my stronghold was I find more security in things than I do relationships. Right. So, and that also resulted in me being very independent as well. That's kind of normal to happen when you've got like people around you with shit character. Like seriously, you're not going to be able to trust them to do what they say because they're not reliable. Okay. So you learn to rely on yourself. All right. So, but that was part of a stronghold for me, not realizing it was a stronghold for me. It was a place of safety because I didn't find safety in my relationship with God, really. Like I knew he was there and like I wanted that like more and more, but I didn't know how to navigate it because of all the stuff that I've been through growing up. And that's really the whole point of why God had to bring the Israelites out of Egypt through the desert so they could unlearn some mindsets they learned while they were in slavery. But that's another video. All right. Number one. So what are your strongholds? What are your places of safety that you've built up in your life but are not serving you today? Those are questions you have to ask yourself. Number two, how does darkness flee? Seriously. Like we say, Jesus is the light. We know these things, but like, how do we apply it? Okay. What do you do if you want light in your room? You turn the light on. So turn on the light, shine truth on the situation. Light is truth. Tell the truth. If you tell the truth, that's how you put light on it. And then you're become aware. You're like, oh, it's kind of like if you're walking around at night and you step on a Lego, like we all know it. We don't even have to turn the light on, but we know what it feels like. The point is sometimes you don't know what's hurting you. You run into something and you're like, I don't know what this is. But then God has a way of showing us things. Like you guys, we are very intelligent beings. I know that the world thinks that humans are stupid, but whatever, that's another conversation. How do I know? Because they want to replace us with AI, but that's another conversation. The point is if we can actually start acknowledging what's going on inside of us, that's part of us turning the light on, acknowledging the things that have hurt us. Okay. Like I said earlier in the beginning of this podcast. So shine truth on your situation. All right. And so let me see here. We just talked about that. I talked about how do you feel secure? We just went over that whole thing. Who is your father now? What does he say? Okay, we talked about how God literally wants you to start referencing your experiences with him over the experiences you've had with your mother and father. Now, here's the thing. You don't ignore them, okay? Like, I remember coming into the church and they say, lay everything down, throw it out. So every experience I ever had, I left my whole life at the door of the church. My experiences, the things I've been through, the people I've been around, like, I never brought that with me into the church. I was like, okay, I'm a new creation, so I threw everything off. That's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to use everything that you've been through, whether you were in the church or not, whether you were serving Jesus or not. That all has a place. There is wisdom stored up in the life that you had before you met Christ. Like, stop being so ashamed of it. Paul would never deny his life, right? And, he didn't go around denying what he used to do. He leveraged it. Leverage the things you've been through to serve you today. You guys, we are not the only people in the world that have had the experiences that we've had, and we can have influence with other people. I say it all the time. Your grace is your life. That is your authority to talk about what God has done in your life, is those kind of things, because you can relate to people. That's the other thing that gives you authority. Anyway, what else can I say? Who is your father? So are you referring back to the experiences that you've had with him? And this is conscious things. You have to do this on a daily basis, day by day, a moment at a time. That's really how healing works. People who are recovering from something physically, they wish they could just do it overnight, but it's day by day, one movement at a time. It's the same thing in your emotional well-being and like changing how you see yourself. It's one thought at a time. It's becoming aware of how you used to behave and think and how that was formed, and understanding yourself. Like, wow, that's where some of the hangouts come from, or the hangups I've had, right? The things that hold you back. So it's being aware of those things and then making a different choice, right? Like, okay, I want to behave this way. This is the direction I want to go with my life. It's you really learning to take charge and ownership of your life. It's true sovereignty. And you guys got to check out the podcast I just released today, talking about what is sovereignty. You guys, we got to stop using these churchy words if they're not doing anything for us. What is sovereignty? Do you even know what it means? Listen to my podcast, you guys. I'll give you some food for thought. I promise it will encourage you. And I'll give you guys some good things. So let me see if there's anything else that we can talk about, you guys, before I jump off here. There is so many notes in this notebook. And like I said, I encourage you guys to go back and study your history of, what's going on in your life, the history of your life, everyday things you're going through, things you're thinking about, all of that. God will use everything. And so I think that was good enough, y'all. What do you guys think? Was this a good podcast? Be sure to share it. I put some links on the video description if anybody ever wants to give. It's very, very helpful, you guys. If you guys value what I'm doing, I do appreciate when people give. If you want to buy a signed copy of my book, I've got over 20 of them. I shared a reel today that I did last year. The same question, like, It's such a great question that I'm gonna keep writing it in my books until the Lord gives me another one. But the question is, what do you need to become aware of in God to close the gap of the lack that you perceive in your life? Oh my God, that is so deep. Stop ignoring your life. Continuing to stay stuck in the same routine, doing the same thing every day, and if you still hate your life, you're ignoring your healing, you're ignoring the keys to you getting out of your own bondage. Right? Oh, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to deal with that. Well, that is right there is hidden what you need to know so you can get out of it. Right? There's something in that. That's just how it works. And so start asking questions and if you really believe God loves you and there's no condemnation, stop condemning yourself for the things that you're aware of that are knocking your butt down. Seriously, church, people, anybody. My podcast and my books are not just for Christians. This can be used for anybody. Anybody who is wanting to grow, wants to have a relationship with the Lord, is trying to figure all this out. This is for everybody. This is for anybody, right? And my stuff is and that's the thing though. It's not for people who are just like, oh, whatever. Okay, say, oh, whatever, all you want. My stuff is for people who literally want to use it and grow and utilize. You have to answer the questions that are in the devotional. It's vital. You will not get insight and understanding by listening to me tell you things. If I ask you questions and you actually stop and think about what I said and you write your answers down, that's your own insight and understanding. That's what will give you the authority to articulate things. Not just somebody, because you guys know when someone's just parroting at you. And it's annoying. Number one, you're like, they don't even know what they're talking about. They're just saying things, especially if their life does not have the results that they proclaim. That's the other thing, guys. And I talked about that on another podcast. I think it was last Friday, Food for Thought Friday, the means of an enemy, right? Paying attention to people's actions, not just what they say. We dug into all that. You guys got a lot of work to do, but I'm telling you, if you guys do, it's going to change your life. All right. So I'm going to get off this podcast, you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you guys for listening. If anybody ever wants to sponsor the podcast, you can sponsor it 99 cents a month, all the way up to $10 a month. I think you have to go to the Anchor or what is it? Spotify. I don't even know anymore. They're changing it so much, but I'll put all of that in the description of the podcast, and anybody can sponsor it. That would be awesome. But anyway, you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. I'm going to get off here and I will talk to you guys next time. All right, we got that stopped. All right, what is up, you guys? So I'm on Facebook and my personal profile right now. I'm going to go ahead and check the comments really quick and see what is happening. Aiden, thanks for being on here. Sue, Victor, Gary, Aspen, and I can never pronounce your name. Yeah, Holy Spirit's cleaning from the inside, learning in big time, relating with God. Absolutely. And that's why it's important too. You guys, please just don't parrot things. Just don't say things, right? Actually literally engage in the process, be inquisitive, ask questions. God wants to help us. We can say that we know that we're supposed to clean our closets out, but are we actually doing it? Right? Why don't we do it? Because sometimes we're ashamed. There's condemnation. There's judgment. Do you guys know what judgment is? It's making a conclusion. And most of the time, it's a final conclusion. How many of you would just trust a judge who just made conclusions without evidence? You wouldn't. And then you got to ask yourself this too. What evidence are you using? The devil wants you to use the evidence of now. God has cleaned your whole slate. He wants you to use your life to understand and grow in wisdom and insight, but not as a way, you're not supposed to operate from that and oh, I'm such a piece of crap now. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to get off here, you guys. Like I said, if anybody wants a copy of my book, I'm going to go ahead and put another link for that in the comments because I believe this book will change your life. If you're ready to change your life, this book will change your life. This link is only for people in the United States. If it's out of the country, you need a separate invoice because it is expensive to ship out of the United States. Canada, I think it's $50 or $48 just to ship out into Canada. One time last year, I sent somebody a book in New Zealand. Daily Encouragement paid for it. It was $73 to have it shipped. We ain't doing that no more. Y'all got to pay for that. That's crazy. So, I would recommend, look on if you got Amazon or because this book is on digital copy as well. So if you're outside of the United States, you're going to have to pay for the signed copy. Like, you're going to have to pay for that shipping. So this link is only for people in the United States. Yeah, and if anybody ever wants to give, you guys, I already told you, I really appreciate it, you guys. If you guys value my time on here, value the things I'm talking about, you know, it's helpful, you know. And so if you guys ever want to do that, I'm going to put a link for that. I do have a post office box. I got one follower that sends me $25 a month. And I'm so grateful for her. And so she sends it to my P.O. box. So if anybody does not like online payments and you want to send me something in the mail, I have a P.O. box. It's Daily Encouragement, P.O. Box 9103, Jackson, Tennessee, 38314. Okay. So Daily Encouragement, P.O. Box 9103, Jackson, Tennessee, 38314. And yeah, you guys, it's helpful. It like puts gas in my tank. You know, it's like, okay, cool. I'm getting something out of this, right? I give you guys a lot. I really do. Some people value it. Some people don't. I don't care. I'm talking about the people who do value what I'm doing. And if it is changing your life, I really hope it is. I hope you guys are getting a ton of insight from reading my book. And that's the other thing. When you're done reading it, put a review on my page. It would be super helpful. And then copy and paste it and put it on Amazon. I'm going to create a page on my website for reviews so you guys can put reviews on my website because I'm trying to get this book out there. I really believe it's going to change people's lives if you literally do the work. You have to answer the questions at the end of each day. You need to get your own insight and understanding. You're not going to get it from just people telling you. You have to start connecting the information where it becomes not just knowledge, it becomes understanding, which becomes insight, which becomes wisdom. Okay. It's all connected together. So on Friday, I will probably not do another live next Wednesday. This was just spontaneous. I just want to jump on here and say hi to you guys, but I'll be back on Friday. You guys have a great rest of the day. Happy Valentine's Day. And I'll talk to you guys next time.